Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV. It's time for the news review with me, Fred Ndimuli. This morning, we're privileged to have Chris Omalwa, MP Kiminini, also the Deputy Minority Whip in the National Assembly. For how long that will be, we wait to see. Edwin Sifuna, Secretary General, ODM Party, and Irongo Kangata, Senator Muranga County, also the Deputy Majority Whip in the Senate. Good morning, gentlemen. Karibuni sana. Quite a lot happening this morning, of course. At the airport, we do understand that Miguna is still holed up at the airport following yesterday's drama that went late into the night. It was covered extensively on Citizen TV Live. The drama, the confrontations, including the part where ODM party leader Raila Odinga was at the airport alongside lawyers seeking the entry into the country of Miguna. That whole drama, the fact that at one point Miguna was made to board a plane for Dubai, headed for Dubai, but he eventually disembarked and that plane left without him. The highlights are there was a fresh bid to deport the defiant opposition activist, but it failed as he disembarked from the Dubai-bound flight. He refused to accept an offer for a 6-month foreign visa, and he refused to have his Canadian passport stamped. He instead offered his ID in place of the destroyed Kenyan passport, of course, which he doesn't have. Raila and Orengo, alongside other lawyers, were present at the airport for that drama. Miguna denied entry into airport chaos. Now this has managed to put Miguna back on the front pages. The last time we saw Miguna back on the front page was when he was deported to Canada 7 weeks ago, immediately after the activities and the events of January 30th. The weeks after, I think a week or two after that, we saw that drama, his house in Runda raided, his arrest, him being arraigned in Kajiado, and eventually being put on a plane to Ontario, Canada, or Toronto rather. Chris Omalwa, did you expect this kind of drama on his return? Because we thought, okay, fine, with this unity pact, this handshake, so much had changed. The KNCHR was involved in ensuring that his return was going to be smooth. Then this drama at the airport again.
First and foremost, I want to condemn, in the strongest terms possible, the torture, the harassment of Miguna. Miguna, for heaven's sake, is a Kenyan. Miguna, there was a court ruling. This is actually contempt of court. We want a country that obeys the rule of law. We want a country that obeys the court orders. And for heaven's sake, Raila Amolo Odinga went there. We thought with this golden handshake, things are going to be better. And I think it's the highest time now. His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga must review that pact with Jubilee, because I really didn't expect this. I thought, initially I thought to go welcome him. Actually, he's a hero. And whatever the way he's being treated, I'm actually very, very disappointed. And that's why I'm calling upon His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga that we must review this pact with Jubilee. The motion came to the floor of the House. We're on the front line to support that we want to have dialogue. Dialogue that will ensure people enjoy their fundamental rights. The dialogue that will help inclusivity. The dialogue that will help in terms of adhering to the rule of law. But what we are seeing here, we are seeing the opposite. So we are asking, what is the commitment of this particular handshake on the way forward? Okay.
Sifuna, we saw your party leader at the airport late at night, yes. But Miguna arrived at around 2:30. That means even Raila going to the airport was an afterthought. He initially thought this was going to be a smooth entry for Miguna, and that was an expectation. No one expected this kind of drama. Did you expect that there was going to be all this hullabaloo?
First of all, we should all join in condemning what is an extremely heinous and barbaric act by immigration officials at JKIA. Of course, it was not expected that this would happen. As you are aware, as part of the legal team, we have been having meetings with immigration officials to try and smooth out anything that would prevent an otherwise smooth entry. And even yesterday, up to until the time when his flight was scheduled to land, we had all the assurances from the officers at immigration that everything was going to work out smoothly. It is extremely unfortunate that that did not happen, and we want to condemn it in the strongest terms possible. I want to dissociate myself from those who want to impute other motives into this particular matter. Number one, a handshake alone will not solve the problems that bedevil as a country. What the handshake did was to agree that as a country we are teetering on the edge, and that we need to have discussions about these matters, including the national ethos, which includes the rule of law and obedience of court orders. As far as I know, those discussions have not begun. So it would be foolhardy to expect that those discussions about these matters not having taken off, that everything in Kenya changed, because these are some extremely deep-rooted cultures that will take time to uproot. So we have to be honest and confront these problems as a country. What we expected as ODM is that after the handshake there would be some level of goodwill. And you will see that from our perspective at least, we have demonstrated so much goodwill, including suspending parallel processes that would have not provided the proper environment for these discussions to kick off. So such acts do not reinforce.
Do you read this as probably lack of goodwill, the fact that Miguna was denied?
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't have to go through this again. It's absolute bad faith on the part of the immigration department, on the behalf of government, and that we expected that at least at a very senior level there would be intervention to ensure that sanity is restored. As my brother referred or alluded to, Miguna is traveling back to Kenya on the strength of a court order by a high court in this country. And it is very frustrating for me, even as a lawyer, that I can go to court and obtain, I think we are doing now 7 court orders from the high court, and that still there are people who will not honor those court orders. It is ridiculous for you to demand that a Kenyan citizen who you deported illegally, who you detained illegally, should obtain a visa to come into the country. It's absolutely ridiculous.
On that issue of a visa, because the law has to be followed, Senator, you're also a lawyer, there are processes that immigration officials have to follow. If you're traveling on a foreign passport, not a Kenyan passport, even if you're a Kenyan, there are expectations. The fact that you're not able to present your Kenyan passport at that point, there are implications to that as well. They claim that yes, simply because he traveled on a Canadian visa, a Canadian passport, he had to be granted a foreign visa for him to gain entry into the country. Now, these are some of the things that immigration officials will argue with, as opposed to the fact when you are being deported or repatriated, for that matter, under the custody of the state. This time he traveled freely from Canada. He booked his own ticket and came back to Kenya, but he used a Canadian passport.
Yes, I think to the best of my knowledge, the court order that he obtained did not grant him what we call an open check for him to violate regulations of travel. I am not aware of any court order which allowed him to come to Kenya with a Canadian passport and then refused to hand it over for stamping to the immigration officials. So from where I sit, I think yes, it is true, there may be court order. I have not seen those court orders. I would be happy to see, so that I'm able to interrogate whether his actions, the actions of the immigration official are legal or not. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't think a court can issue an open check, that you can just walk into this country. I would imagine there are several procedures when you are traveling. Number one, you must have a passport, and on the basis of that passport, the receiving country is going to treat you depending on the relationships between that country and your passport.
You want to tell him?
Yes, and number two, well, sorry,
I'll give you. Okay, finish.
I also want to respond to that.
Yes, number two, yes, it is true, we do have a handshake. We want to bring everyone on board. But on the other hand, I think also the government has a duty to enforce the law. And I don't think that handshake is going to mean that the government is not going to enforce the law. We will have a lawless country.
On that issue of the passport and the visa.
Let me speak as a person who obtained the court order, who knows what the court order is about. You know, we need some level of intellectual honesty. This is my brother. We were in the same class with him in law school. The court order was directed at the Ministry of Immigration and the Ministry of Interior to facilitate the return of Miguna to Kenya. To facilitate the return of Miguna to Kenya. We are not talking about, we're not talking about somebody who left to go on vacation. He was illegally deported. You cannot talk about enforcement of the law now. There was a law then which you broke. You violated the law by deporting him. You are being told to restore the status quo ante. So you cannot tell us that now you have finally become acquainted with the law. It's absolutely ridiculous. So what we are demanding is the unconditional entry on the strength of a court order. In fact, Miguna did not need a passport.
Regardless of
all
the
he
passport
needed,
or the travel
all he needed, and we know that Canada is a country that upholds the rule of law. They know what a court order looks like. All Miguna needed was to present a court order at the airport in Canada. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Would it have been easier if at all he traveled using, he used the court order as a strength for his travel instead of booking his own ticket?
Let me also remind you that immigration were required to deposit a valid travel document, his passport, in court. What they did was to perforate his document. The reason the court wanted that passport in court was so that they could surrender it to the lawyers and transmit it to Miguna so that he could travel on a Kenyan passport. So it is nonsense for you to come and tell us that suddenly you know what the law is and that you are upholding the law. It's absolutely trash. And for you, my brother, I would expect that even for you, and as a media house, you should be condemning even the treatment of your own journalists.
That's why you're here.
It's not my job only. We are all Kenyans. I would like to hear what you think about the treatment of Sophia Wanuna and all of the other journalists who were at the airport yesterday. That's not the country we want to live in. Handshake or no, we want a country that upholds the rule of law.
Okay.
I think Honorable Gangata is not being fair, because before we came here we had a chat with him and asked him, where is Miguna? And you don't have to see the court order, because it's been in the public domain, that he's supposed to come back unconditionally. Unconditionally means without any conditionalities. Even it doesn't matter the issues of the passport. I've traveled many times when I lost my passport, and the diplomatic missions, they just give you a written document. So really what is happening to Miguna, it is very unfair. He's being harassed, he's being tortured, and indeed he's a Kenyan. And this country, we must uphold the rule of law. That's why we're going back to that handshake. One of the critical elements of that handshake was to ensure aspects of inclusivity, the respect of the rule of law. I know we are supposed to have an implementation framework on how we're going to achieve this, but it's taking also too long. And that's why I'm saying to His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, we must be able to review. Is there a commitment on this issue of the handshake, or you're just being taken for granted? For heaven's sake, if he even went there personally, we expected some level of respect, at least. But we are told when he was there were tear gassed everywhere. So to me, if the commitment is not there, we'd rather do away with this handshake.
Okay. Well, the drama does continue. We do understand Miguna is still at the airport because he is yet to be granted entry into the country, and that bid to deport him to Dubai failed after that flight left. What will happen today, we wait to see. We'll be trying to get updates from our reporters. We do understand we do have a team there already. We're also hoping to get an update from Akori Ongechi from Kitui West constituency. And yes, yesterday, as we had mentioned earlier in our news bulletin, one of our journalists, Stephen Leto, was injured in that chaos as police used force to disperse journalists as they covered the return of Miguna. But we are made to understand that Stephen Leto is in stable condition, and they'll be talking to us later on as we continue with the show. Now let's look at this from a political standpoint. Yes, the drama at the airport aside. Yesterday on social media, There was a lot of argument on Miguna's return and whether or not he's still relevant to the kind of politics playing out in the country currently, given the fact that there's that unity pact, given the fact that he has opposed it. He tweeted from Canada and gave his opinion about what he feels should happen and what should not happen. How relevant was his return going to be? Forgetting about even the drama at the airport, how relevant was his return going to be, given that he's been away during this time that we're having this handshake and all these things?
I don't see where the issue of his relevance arises. He's supposed to come back home. He's not coming back to do politics. He's coming back home. It has nothing to do with relevance or what is going on in the country or what discussions he's coming to have. He's coming back home. He deserves to be here. So what he does or doesn't do, what he says or doesn't say, is not important. We want him to do or not say it while he's here as a Kenyan. Because
a foreign visa or a tourist visa would deny him a few liberties. For example, if you are in Kenya on a foreign visa, you'll not be allowed to take part in Kenya.
I don't understand why you are talking about foreign visas.
That is what you will remember.
You will remember that the declaration by Matiang'i declaring him a foreigner was revoked by the courts. So I don't understand why we are discussing foreign visas.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I think the matter is still pending in court, right? I think what you obtain is what we call interim orders.
It was
no.
As we stand
the matter
right
is
now,
still pending in court. The matter is
the
still
only
yes,
matter that
I know
is
you
pending,
may have obtained
the
what
only
we call
matter that is pending is jailing the people who broke the law.
No, I would imagine what is a problem my colleagues obtain is what we call interim orders. They are going to last maybe pending the conclusion of that case. But I think the issues are still being canvassed, and therefore we should await the judgment.
Because there appears to be some anxiety
from a political
about
point
his involvement in
well,
politics.
yes, I think the question that you are raising is a political question. What is the relevance of Miguna? From where I sit, I think Miguna doesn't have much relevance. However, I agree what is happening in the airport might somehow build him. He becomes, his political status becomes somehow enhanced. So in a sense, he may be benefiting out of whatever is happening there. But we must agree, we must accept one, when it comes to ODM party, I think everything revolves around Raila Odinga. And I would urge him, if at all he wants the handshake to be firmer between him and the president, he needs to shut out the radicals in his battalion. Because I'm seeing he's becoming a hostage of various radicals who don't want the so-called handshake to be firmed up.
I think as far as the politics of this conference is concerned, Miguna is very relevant. In line with Article 38 of the Constitution, everybody has his own political rights. And this is somebody who even contested. So you can't say that Miguna is insignificant. So we are watching. To me, the critical point is we want to see whether the government, from that handshake, because when you look at the both sides of the Jubilee side and the NASA side, Miguna played a very critical role. So really, we are seeing the handshake is there. And Miguna still remains part and parcel of the Kenyan agenda in terms of bringing governance, the issue of the reforms. So to me, yesterday I expected to have a smooth comeback. The fact that this Miguna is a Kenyan, and you cannot wish Miguna away. So really, we want Miguna to come and settle. Some of us want to hear more in terms of that agenda. I know there's a very good agenda between the Jubilee government and the NASA side, but I've always stated clearly, as opposition, we remain being opposition, and we remain to provide oversight to the Jubilee government. Where there are good ideas for the public good, we are going to support the Jubilee government. But where there's a problem, even they cannot respect the court order, this is where we go wrong. So we want to see, in the handshake, is it going to be cascaded? Is it going to be implemented? Or it was just an issue of games here and there?
The fact is that if at all he would have accepted the offer of a 6-month foreign visa, he would have been granted entry. What are the implications if at all he had said, okay, fine, here's my Canadian passport, give me that visa, now I get entry into the country under that? What would have been the implications?
What you must understand is that we must always stand up for the law. The law might be inconvenient sometimes, but it is our responsibility to defend and uphold it. You will not make me cede my rights as a country, as a Kenyan, just so that I can gain some comfort It is not a favor that I was born here. So even if it were me, I would not accept for you to grant me a visa as if you treat me as if I'm a foreigner. I am a Kenyan, I was born here. The issue of the visa is neither here nor there. And I agree fully with Miguna that nobody should claim to want to issue a Kenyan with a visa. We were born here.
Okay. The implication of you being a foreign visa, you must understand that when you come to any country as a foreigner, you're not allowed to get involved in political activities.
Exactly.
And maybe that's the reason why
the anxiety was that he would get involved.
Can I comment?
So really, if I were Miguna, obviously, I wouldn't have accepted that. Because I'm a politician, and if you're a politician, you are entitled maybe to comment or to participate in some of the issues of the political process. So if you accept that you're given a foreign visa, that means you're being cut. And this is where we are saying, whatever Miguna decided, it was the right thing to do. And he knows the significance, he knows the implication if you are given that foreign visa. You'll not be allowed to participate in political activities. So anytime you engage yourself in political activities, you're going to be jailed. So to me, I still want to condemn this issue and the fact that the court order was there, which said that he must be reinstated back unconditionally. What you are saying is this: we want the agencies to respect the rule of law.
Okay.
Well, Miguna on his own volition renounced his Kenyan citizenship. And there are procedures.
Just come and say,
no, it is a fact.
Where's the evidence? Can you table the evidence that...
No, well, before the new constitution was enacted, we did not have a provision for dual citizenship.
But he had a passport, which was provided.
He did not. No, let me explain. He obtained that Kenyan passport, I think on or about 2008 or thereabout. So, that's a fact.
You don't know about the court order, but you know what matters in 2008. Kangata, please.
When did he acquire his Kenyan citizenship? When did he acquire his Kenyan?
It's okay to say you don't know about these matters. You don't
know. The point is, prior to the new constitution promulgation, people were not allowed to have dual citizenship. And if you want to acquire your Kenyan citizenship again after you had originally denounced it, there are procedures. You have to make an application. And maybe that at least those issues are pending before court. Personally, I have an issue with those court orders. Because, by the way, we are not looking at Miguna alone here. We are not looking at Miguna here. What kind of precedent are we setting for other Kenyans who are out there? Okay. You may open up a blank check. You find some people who have major issues out there. They may as well come and say, no. We can as well come into Kenya freely without any conditions. Okay. So we are a country that is ruled by law, which have been passed by Parliament, and we need to support and then ensure we follow those laws.
Okay, so and as far as this matter is concerned, Miguna is still at the airport. Yes, that flight, he did not board it and it left without him. But there are more flights coming up today. Chances are he could be deported today. But what's the way forward? You're part of his legal team.
Personally, first, we need to wrap up with the show. Then I rush to relieve my colleagues who spend the entire night at the airport. And we will be able to advise on what the way forward is from there. But as for me, there is only one way forward. Court orders must be respected. Even if the matter is still pending, the court said let those matters pend while he is here, so that he can prosecute his own case. It is very difficult even dealing with a client who's away, receiving instructions, consulting here and there, signing documents. Let him come and prosecute his case while he's here. He's a Kenyan, and the order was clear: unconditional return.
As his legal team, don't you think it would have been easier if at all he had gained entry even using that foreign visa? Then you follow the matter from here?
I want to advise you to move away from that issue of a foreign visa.
You are on the headlines.
That's what I'm saying. I am advising you. As a Kenyan, you should always be on the forefront of defending your fellow countrymen, because today it's Miguna, tomorrow it's going to be you. Do not suggest that it is convenient to treat a Kenyan as a foreigner just so that he can gain entry. We will stand up for our rights. If we have said it, we are ready to pay the ultimate price. We are ready to die defending what is right. You will not lure us with conveniences. Okay. No way.
Okay. Tough talk there from the ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. He's part of the legal team for Miguna, and he says he'll be heading to the airport where Miguna is still being held. He's not being granted entry into the country, and there were attempts to deport him. Will there be a attempt to deport him again today? We wait to see.